School is the most important thing in your life. And while I hate school, I got a PhD. And I hate school. I hate everything about it. So somebody say, E, if you hate school so much, why you get a PhD? Because I hate school, but I love options. You can have average skill, but you can't have average will. You can't have average will. Like your will has to be phenomenal. You have to see basketball as the gateway. It's like a passport. Basketball is just your way to get in, and then once you get in, boom, then you dominate. So I'm telling you, you're not taking a test because they're giving you the test. You're taking a test that's about to change your life, your mama's life. And I know if you take the test serious, you'll kill it. When you go through your go-through, your siblings are watching you. When you go through your go-through, your friends are watching you. When you go through your go-through, your parents are watching you. And people will use your strength to get through their stuff.
Yo, what's up? It's your boy E.T. Hey, as always, super excited. Man, we got life, y'all, and, a lot of people have been calling me, talking about all the stuff that's going on in schools. And here's my deal. You don't need problem solvers if you don't have a problem, right? You don't need problem solvers if you don't. Now, you don't need people who are going to exacerbate a problem. You don't need people who are going to take a challenge and make it worse, but you do need people who are going to solve problems. So I just got a text this morning. A guy was telling me about his wife in Boston. Apparently, like there is a situation in Boston where students are actually jumping on teachers. Like, it's unbelievable. You've got here locally a group of kids and we'll talk about it later, just walked out of the school because of bullying and fighting, right? So, man, I'm so excited about this podcast because that's what we do. We literally give solutions. And listen to me, guys, we're willing to come to your school. We just left Benton Harbor. Like, we're not playing. We're in schools, all of us, all over the world. We're not playing. We will come to your school. So we're not, those people who were just talking about it. We're actually educators. We've actually been in the schools. We actually have been in the schools on several different. All right. So 3 things. Of course, we're here to inspire you to stay in school. Like, don't leave the school, right? Don't leave. I get you. But we want to inspire you to stay, right? Like 9/11, when others ran out, first responders were running in. We've got to run in as educators. Number 2, man, you're going to hear something that's going to go, aha. It's been a challenge, but if I address it that way, I got it. And then most importantly, we're here to get your back. Like, we all need somebody to lean on. Okay, so do me a favor. I have never seen the educational system in this much, disarray. I've never seen this before, but this is not the time to quit. This is not the time to give up. This is not the time to give in. All right. So with that being said, Katie, it's on you. What's our topic for today?
Yeah, we have been in a classroom management series, which sounds very fitting to the 2 stories that you just brought up for us today. Talk about. So we're going to wrap up classroom management today, but specifically talking about letting students talk. What happens when we let them talk? We give them some autonomy over their own learning and facilitate student discussions in a way that they get to be in charge of their own talking and learning.
I love it. I love it.
And problem solving. Yeah,
and problem solving. So, Brandon, I don't know, Coach B, if we have the clip, but guys, I sent this to the crew the other day. I read it, and on one hand, I was a little taken back, but on another hand, I was super encouraged by what I saw. I was super, super encouraged because when we give our babies a voice, or when our babies, in this case, take their voice and raise their voice in a very productive and positive way, here are some of the things that can happen. So,
hey, your mic went out.
What happened?
Oh, there we go.
Are you back now?
All right. I'm like, I don't know what happened.
Just keep it right. That's what happened in school.
I know exactly what happened. All right, I got it. All right. So there's an article that came out recently well, I don't even know if it was an article. Somebody emailed it to me. and Holt High School. The kids just literally, listen to me, they came to school, I guess for the last couple of weeks perhaps, or months, they've been expressing their concerns about bullying, which is, man, I don't know if it's global, but at least on a national level, like the bullying, the cyber bullying, the Instagram, TikTok, like the bullying has gotten out of control, and the fighting, in the schools have gotten out of control. And apparently, a young lady committed suicide because she was being bullied. And the student said, "Look, we're fed up. If the administration can't deal with it, we're walking out of class, we're walking out of school, and we're not coming back until you address it." And I just thought, wow, when you talk next level, like that's next level. So this is what happens when we give our babies a voice. They're saying we have a challenge, we have a situation that's out of control, we have an administration, we have superintendents, we've got a district, and for whatever reason, the adults are not able to handle the situation, or they've not properly addressed the situation. It's affecting us mentally, emotionally. People are taking their lives. Like, we've had enough. We're out. And literally walked out of the school. Now, let me tell you something. If that's one way to get administration's attention, if that's one way to say, hey, if you're not going to address it, we're going to address it. What's the word? Peaceful protest at its finest. That is peaceful protest at its finest. None of the kids, they didn't turn over cars. They didn't attack the teachers. They didn't spray paint the building. They weren't unruly. I wish I could find out. I'm gonna make a phone call. I want to know who the student was, the first student or the first group of students who had this conversation with each other. Was it, did they text each other? Was it a group? Did they Instagram? Did they talk during lunch? Was it before school or after school? But whoever these kids are, shout out to these kids that they were able to see that they too are leaders, and that the solution to the problem is not always, vertical. It's not always vertical. It's not always the vice principal. It's not always the principal. It's not always other school leaders. It's not always superintendent. But shout out to that small group that knew the power that they had to bring about change. And again, peaceful protest was able to get the entire school body to walk out, to get the attention of not only the school, the news, the local newspaper, the school board, and say enough is enough. So this is one way to manage. This is management. Remember the word management, we talked about control. So these kids were under control, and they were able to get control of a situation that is nationally affecting our babies. Now, I don't know what the solution was that happened last week, so I'm not really sure. I'll figure it out this week, how the administration handled it. But shout out to our babies and our leaders that stood up and said, we're not going to take this anymore. Something needs to be done so that the bullying is addressed, and more important, the fighting during school hours are addressed. So I thought that was phenomenal. Sam, you've been to a school where there have been challenges. You've been to a school where I don't know if the young man was shot on the property, but I know it had something to do with the school. What's been your experience, either from an administrative standpoint or a student standpoint, to give us some tips on how we can, how we can get back to just school, just learning, sports, just having fun?
Yes. First of all, praise, kudos, to those students for really using their voice, because that's what we've been talking about, is student empowerment, students taking the lead. And, I've definitely been in those situations before. And a lot of times, without it being publicly said, there's relationships with teachers where the students are saying hey, we're going to walk out. We're going to do this. We can't do this anymore. And and even with administrators. And I think that's so key, you know, like to have those relationships also with the students on the admin team, educators or whatnot, because I've been in those situations where students are like, we're walking out today, like, you know, just to let you know, give you a heads up, like we're not happy with this. And so I'm just like, I'm proud of the students. Like I would love to hear about how it all started as well from them. And I just, you know, what courage it takes to be able to do that. And it just has me thinking about a few things. I think like we have to prioritize the mental and social well-being and health of our students. Like we're coming out of a pandemic. So many things have happened. And on top of that, like my dad is a teacher. And so we talked the other day and he was like, you know, I have 10th graders, but the last time they were in school, they were in 8th grade. So like socially, social media was like, for a lot of them, was their social engagement, right? And so we just really have to prioritize that. And I love that the students are using their voice. I also know that it's like the school district, their attention is being called, but I also think like our community, our total community's attention is being called to this, because we also cannot put everything on the schools, like all the societal problems, like right there in the school, because that's what's showing up. And so really like, I hope this is calling the community's attention where it's like, hey, like we need to support, like, you know, a lot of, you know, like sometimes there might be one social worker, two social workers in the school. Like, what is that support? So how do we rally as a community to look at like, this is a huge problem, and probably the school district is not the only, you know,
that's great.
people that can solve this, but we need partnership.
Yeah, you know, when you said that, you know, what I thought about with Train and Katie and specifically the work that they're doing right now, this is the first time that I've ever been a part of a program, and I've been doing this for years, where they decided to bring in as a part of our program other resources. Like normally when I go somewhere and do my thing, it's like my team, you know what I'm saying? Like, that's what we do, right? And so I noticed when, you know, Katie and they did the program or the programs that they've been doing with the literacy piece is that we brought in librarians, we brought in other community leaders, we brought in other organizations that are doing similar work to what we're doing. And then I was super proud in all the schools we've been to, but Benton Harbor, so many parents showed up. And it was funny because there was a local pastor there who said, man, I don't know if y'all gonna be able to get parents to come out. You know, he was like, I've got a program in the hood and I can't get the parents to walk across the street to sign their babies up. And so shout out to all of those parents. And we saw a lot of fathers.
We did.
Fathers were there, you know, fathers came out.
And moms.
Yeah, more fathers came out than moms. And so I wanna say to our school leaders that are listening, like, let's stop saying fathers don't get involved. You know, let's invite them, you know. And again, you may have to do something unique. Now, we didn't do anything super innovative, but we did feed them first. You know, and so for a lot of fathers, it could have been, or mothers, that they don't come to programs because they have to feed their children before they come to the program. So we were like, hey, don't even worry about food. We got they had a nice chicken breast with the rice, and then they had vegetables and some sweets, you know, and so they showed up. And I drove home that night like, wow, to your point, Sam, I was thinking of a song. It's going to take a miracle. Like, it's going to take a miracle. And a part of that miracle is it's going to take involvement. Yeah. It's going to take involvement. And I wish I'd have thought about this, and I have Brandon put it up later, but I also saw another situation like this where it was a lot of bullying and fighting going on. And over 100 fathers decided to start coming to the school all day. Yeah. So they rotate now.
In Louisiana, that was in Louisiana. Dad's on duty.
Dad's on duty. The dads are there in the morning. Then they got another shift. They come in the afternoon. Then another shift. They come at night. So we're gonna play that video here for you guys in a minute. But I'm just showing you how other communities are managing these problems, and they're saying, "Hey, the students in Hope high are saying, we're going to do something about it. Fathers in Louisiana are saying, we're going to do something about it. Fathers and mothers, at Benton Harbor showed up and said, hey, we're going to do something about it. And I hate to say this, Sam, you're from the area as well as Katie, but Benton Harbor had the same situation as Flint with the water. So the kids have been out of school, Sam. They have been out of school now. They just got back in school the week we did this program. They didn't even know if we were going to be able to do the program. So they had lead in the water. They had a boiling problem, that boiling unit. So that wasn't working. So there was no running water in the school. And I'm like, wow, this is what, like, you got the pandemic, you got lead in the water, you got a boiling. But what I love about the principal and the superintendent, shout out to the superintendent, he was there all day. So he didn't make a quick visit. He stayed the entire day. And he said, we just got back in school. So this is a phenomenal program, for our babies to come back to. So good. Auntie Val, from you in terms of management, you've been in the school, we're talking about these kids at Holt. We're talking about the fathers. What's your, what tips can you give to our school leaders and our teachers?
So there's one program, when you talked about dads, I was like, wow, yeah, it's called Watchdogs. So it is dads of great students. And they have a full-blown program where you can buy the curriculum, and they have a program. They have Dads University, WG University, and it is awesome. So it's called Watchdogs, and it's it's the acronym DOGS. So it's a pretty cool program. Yeah. But in the schools, I think we need generative dialogue. Generative dialogue is where the teachers actually sit down with the students, and they do more listening than they do talking.
That's good.
So it works in the classroom when you ask your kids, hey, what's working, what's not? You're teaching them.
Right. Yeah.
Nell and I've been talking about it. It's not about you.
Yeah.
It's not about school. Is for the kids.
Yeah.
We've made this institution about us and what we like, even to the point where the furniture, we think it belongs to us. If they move a chair to take it somewhere else, it's like, where's that chair?
Where's that chair?
Right. It's not where's that student when the student's not in there. It's where's the chair.
That's good.
So the generative dialogue allows us to hear cogent, right? So we're listening to the students and their take on how it can be better. Now, of course, you're going to get the kids. We should have gym all day. Okay, right. But once you train the kids to have the conversation, how does that work? And there's a movie out. I'm not recommending the kids watch it without the parents, but it pierced me. The movie was 13 Reasons Why. It was a series.
Yeah, it's a book.
13 Reasons. Yes, it is. It started as a book. You're right. And so the young lady, she committed suicide. But before she committed suicide, she made a cassette tape for everyone that impacted her to get to the point where she wanted to kill herself.
Wow.
And the thing before she killed herself, she gave all the cassettes to one person, and they passed it on to a next person that was in this, had a cassette. One of the cassettes went to a counselor at the school. And they showed the video of the interaction between the student and the counselor. And the counselor said those words that I have said several times: you'll be all right. Didn't take into consideration what that kid actually was going through. And just wrote it off as you'll be all right. You got to get thicker skin. Yeah, I know. And because we were raised a certain way.
Yes.
These kids, it's different. They don't have that social interaction like we had. We went outside every single day.
Yeah.
We couldn't wait to get home to go outside to play. We fought, but we played again tomorrow. These kids don't play again tomorrow. They try to kill you tomorrow. Or they don't know how to deal with it, or they have anxiety.
Yeah.
It just goes. So we have to approach it differently. Every generation is not the same. It's not a cookie cutter generation.
Absolutely.
What worked back then does not work now.
Yeah.
So my suggestion is generative dialogue, where we sit and we listen, and we get to the point where we allow them to have some input on the environment that they're in every day.
Yeah.
And think about this. They did a union move. That's what the teachers.
That's what it was.
Right. They did it.
Yeah, that's what it was.
They had coercive power, right?
Yeah.
They coerced them like, okay, now either y'all gonna do this or we gonna do this.
Absolutely.
And they did a union move. And guess what? I've watched Chicago do it every 4 or 5 years for their contract. So the kids may be onto something, but as long as they do it the right way, and before they went out, it sounds like Brandon just sent so that they wrote a letter before they did it. Wow. And said, hey, this is what we need.
Yeah.
And they're it's not outrageous. Yeah. The kids know what they need, y'all. Yeah. Come on.
And you know what's so funny? I was just I was working on a series today, and I was asking the question. I opened up the series with a question. What is smart?
I don't use that word.
You know, can we revisit what intelligence is? Like what is smart, right? And I think that's what we need to do is we need to help our babies understand what is smart. And for me, smart is getting results. You know, like at the end of the day, you know, if you are a, you know, brilliant test taker, but when you go out into the real world, you know what I'm saying? Like socially, you can't handle it. Like what is smart? And so when you talk about talking to the babies, I think when we talk about management, one of the things that we have to do is we have to stop solving or trying to solve all their problems. And we really do have to let them get into this idea of problem solving. Like they have to learn because they're not going to be with us always. And you're looking at, you know, the suicide, you're looking at people murdering people, you're looking at these are methods that people are using. And all I'm saying is that, hey, let's introduce you to a myriad of possible solutions. Like, let's give you a myriad of tools that you can use to say, hey, when we're not getting along, does that have to mean suicide? Or does that have to mean taking somebody's life? Or does that have to mean killing each other? Now, I know I'm old, but we used to break dance. Like we actually, you know, we actually fought with each other through break dance, and we played football. We played football against each other, you know, we played basketball against each other, or worst case scenario, we wrestled against each other, you know, and if we had to fight, everybody was around and it was just you and that person. And when it was over, it was over. That nobody shot each other, nobody killed each other. So we learned that there are multiple ways to deal with one problem, right? And I think that's what we need to help our children. As when we talk about management, well, what is management? Control. And taking someone's life, that's like you're out of control. You know, like that's you're out of control. Like no other human has the right to take another human's life. And so I think what we see with Hope, what we're seeing with the fathers is there is a way to manage all of this stuff that's going on, guys. It is. And I know sometimes it seems overwhelming. It seems unsolvable. You know, it seems like there's nothing we can do and we just need to throw up our hands and quit and give in. But that's not the truth. We can manage this thing, and we can manage it one teacher at a time, one student at a time, one administrator, one parent, one community resource. Yeah. So, all right. Well, Katie, you're in the mix now. Like you're on the road with us. You're in the mix. You've been in the classroom. You're out of the classroom now. What are some of the tips that you would give to our teachers, students, you know, as a whole on how to manage, you know, some of the things that, you know, sometimes seem unmanageable?
Yeah, I think, you know, when we talk about letting the students talk, it's important. Teachers, we want you to feel like we are in your corner, like we support you. We want to elevate the voices of our students. But a lot of times, teachers, you're right, you're standing right alongside the students. And I think in that article, it said that there were teachers that were there, and the principal was there, and the superintendent were there. So they were there and listening. But we also have to model for the students the right way to, or I don't know, but I don't like the word right, but like a good way for them to do the talking, right? So we can't just assume that we're going to give them a platform, and we have to help them understand like the appropriate way to do the talking first. So I think the really powerful way for us to do that is to model it. I'm thinking even as parents, like we talk about how like we want to, in my house, like problem solve in front of our kids, because you want them to see you being able to, you don't have to agree all the time,
right?
You know, that's just not realistic. So it's not like they need to see us agree all the time, but they do need to see us have conversations where maybe we don't always agree, but we're going to problem solve in an appropriate way. And when we think about our kids, how many of our kids don't get to see that at home? And how can we facilitate that in the classroom where we're making sure that they see problem solving and appropriate conversations, and then even like practice it together. So I've done this at the high school level and the elementary school level, and you can do this within content or like outside content if you have big issues like this going on in your school, but where you do like an inside circle and an outside circle for the talking. And the outside circle is just listening and taking notes, and the inside circle is doing the speaking.
That's good. That's good.
Yeah, and then they can pause, and you can debrief afterwards, and then get the outside circle sometimes even gives pointers to the ones on the inside for like, hey, I heard you say you did this, and I think it might have been helpful if you said, I felt like this. You know, they give that feedback. And the kids they can do amazing things if we put tools in their hands and have high expectations for them. And you teachers that are thinking like, I have to teach my class, I can't manage all of that, because we know teachers are thinking that, right? You're so overwhelmed. Maybe even just start with this within content, where you're teaching them how to have good collaborative conversations, like you were talking about, Al. We did it with Krista and I used to do this with second graders and book clubs. We wanted them to talk about books. And so we'd put them in an inner circle and an outer circle. But before we did that, adults did it, and we modeled it for them. And so the adults, we would pull in the principal and the counselor, and we'd sit in a circle with the kids in a circle around us, and we'd talk about a book, which seems so silly, right? But we'd sit and talk about it, and the kids would listen. And then we did it again with a group of students, and they watched, and then another group of students, and they watched. And I promise you, after a lot of modeling, it turned into, we would have book club once a week, and our second graders would be sitting in little circles, and they'd help themselves. So we called it tea and crackers or whatever we had. And they'd sit and they'd have these like amazing conversations about books, like totally independently. They're like 7 and 8, but they did that because they watched us model it over and over and over again. And if we can do that with content, we can do it with these bigger issues that are happening too at any age level, and help them learn how to solve and talk about these things in a way that's going to be productive. So
that's good.
I love that.
I love that. Those literacy circles. I love them. When you said it, I said, oh, literacy all again. I love it. I love it.
Right.
One thing that you said, Katie, that really stuck with me also was that the modeling, right? And then the relevance in the classroom. So no matter like what subject you're teaching, like I'm just thinking back to, let's say you're a social studies teacher, right? And so you're learning about the issues of the world or whatnot. You're giving student voice. You are within the classroom, you're having them work and solve real issues and being able to get out in the community and really like empowering through experiential learning. Like these are the moments where like when you bring that into the classroom, like when they face these moments in life, like this is my time, right? Like I'm prepared for this. And it reminds me of a moment when I was in St. Louis. I was a facilitator for this wonderful nonprofit called Cultural Leadership. And it was for Black and Jewish high school students to learn about each other's religion, culture, history. And we went on a trip, and they had been preparing in the community, like all of that, like we're going to be social justice leaders. And so, they're learning all the things, they're talking, they're having discussions. But when we went on the trip, we went to go visit Money, Mississippi. And so Emmett Till's history marker was defaced. And we pulled up, and the kids were like, they didn't think twice. Like they rolled their sleeves up and got to work. And by the end of that time, they had rewrote history facts, put it all over, took a picture, they tweeted it. They got the history marker removed and repaired within a matter of days. And so, it made international news. Like we got flown out to the National African American History and Culture Museum in DC. The kids got to speak there about that, because it's like, in that moment as educators, like we saw the kids were like, so what are you guys going to do about that? Right. And so it's just that preparation of like, how do you also bring that relevance inside of the classroom, allowing students, empowering them so that when they face these moments in society as well, they know exactly what to do and they know how to use their voice.
I love it. And what's so crazy is that, when you talk about that activity and exercise, it's something that even works for adults. Like it works.
Definitely. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It works. And I think so many times when you talk about management, I think the reason why we lose control is because we never prepare for control. It's like we never prepare for it. We never prepare for it. It's just like it's supposed to happen automatically.
Right.
You have so much going on outside the classroom, so much going on, and not in someone's home, also in someone's. There are multiple challenges going on in the home at one time. There are multiple challenges going on based on the community that you live in, right? There are unique challenges that are taking place because of whatever township or city you live in, right? And so you bring all that into the classroom, and the teacher's thinking in her mind or his mind that their mind, okay, you're just gonna come in, sit down, shut up, whatever. It's like that's not even happening in the real world right now. You know, it's not even happening in the real world. I'm cutting on the news. I just saw something recently, when you talk about COVID, you got certain NFL players that feel some type of way, some basketball player. It's not even like in the NBA, everybody's on the same page. It's not like in the NFL, everybody's on the same page. You know what I'm saying? It's not like in the classroom. So there's so much chaos, and the only environments that are getting through it well are those environments that are planning. And I'm thinking to myself, why is it that the technology industry is constantly doing SWOT analysis and doing intervention? Like, why are the industries that are doing so well doing it, and then those that aren't able to see, like, what is it called? I think it's Apple, whatever they call when they have those big announcements for Apple, right? Yeah. I mean, everybody knows about it. They're showing us all kind of stuff. They're walking us through the FAQ, what could go wrong, what could go right. And then the schools are so stagnant. It's like if technology is doing all of this, examining and putting stuff in the lab, and doing assessments and evaluations.
Upgrades.
It's like, why aren't we doing it in the schools? So, it's funny, Katie, when you said that, because people were saying about the last conference we did, the 120, they were saying like, yo, this is the best conference ever. Well, a part of the reason why it was the best conference ever is because it's probably one of the only conferences that we really walk through what are some of the challenges in advance. I'm just being honest. I've been able to do what I've been able to do by the grace of God at a high level for a long time, and so if I am evaluating, it's probably in my mind every day, like I'm not intentional and deliberate about it. And so things happen when you're not intentional. But they were just testing everything, poking holes in everything, and I'll say this. I'll give you guys, let's do the round table now. This will be my last thought for today. We have to stop thinking that poking holes in something is a bad thing, and I'm speaking from experience. I remember my wife is a brilliant hole poker. And I remember there was a time in my life where I didn't necessarily value the art of, poking holes through in things, right? But the reality is when they send out any product, whether it be a car, retail, whatever, they do poke holes in it. Like they test the car with the dummy, they drive it into the wall several times to see if it's safe. This is what they do. So I just want to say to my educators out there, don't look at poking holes and doing activities and exercises. Don't look at that as time wasters first and foremost. Like there are those of you like, yo, this is a waste of my time. Yeah. And I mean two ways. It's a waste of my time and it's wasting my time. And there are those of you who feel like, man, these activities, I could be doing instruction. I always say, if you're doing instruction that's not instructing, you're not doing instruction anyway.
That's the point. Yes.
I mean, you're wasting time. So if nobody wants to learn, you're not in an environment where people are learning. So I'm speaking from, my name is Eric Thomas, and I used to have a problem with hole pokers. Okay, so if you're a teacher out there, I feel you. I understand what you're saying, but now I get it. I understand the value of it. It increases and enhances the quality of what we do. It protects, it keeps intact, and it adds flavor and color, believe it or not. It really does. So when you start testing stuff, when you start making people, evaluate all of that stuff, again, I want to say this, it actually enhances your instruction. It actually protects the integrity of your instruction. And more importantly, it really does keep the control intact, right? So That's my last few words. I'm sticking with it, guys. I got to get out of here. Right after Val, Sam, Katie, you guys go. We're gonna go to B's office as always. He's got something phenomenal for us, and B has told me rethink going to the principal's office. All right, it's a good thing. It's a very good thing. Go for it, Val. Give me your last your ahas and takeaways as we get out of here.
Let's go. So in math, it's called the if-then theory. If this, then that. And you go through a whole theory. If this, then that. So let's just think about it like that in education. If this, then that. But we can do it on multiple arenas within the classroom. If this happens, what's that? If this, then that. So let's begin to look at it as a practice. Like, okay, before we actually do whatever we're about to do, let's do a if then that. So then that way we're thinking that this could go wrong. Even in the classroom, I used to prepare because y'all already know, doing observation, something goes wrong. Technology never ever works right.
Yeah.
Right, Katie?
Yes.
Right. So
especially when you're being observed.
Yes. Right. You're thinking I'll play this awesome video, and guess what happens? The video is just it's just spinning. So you got to have an if then that. So if the video doesn't work, I have this worksheet. Yeah. Or if this lesson, and a lot of teachers can, I'm not gonna say a lot, excuse me, some, if you teach a lesson and it's not going right, chuck it right there in the middle of it. Like, you know what, hold on, this not working like I thought, let's stop. So guess what, even in the schools, when those kids walked out for bullying, someone should have said, you know what, it's not working, let's stop. Let's listen. Let's figure this out. So that if then that, let's do that. I think it works a lot. It works a lot better. So the whole pokers really help. And as well, if we listen on the front end, like Sam said, they was talking about it before they did it.
Yeah.
Somebody, it's like after a massive shooting or something happens, you go, oh, he did say, or she did. So somebody has to listen on the front end. Come on. All right, Sam, talk to it.
Yeah, so I think like one thing I wanted to say earlier, obviously we're talking about like Holt High School and that incident, but I think also like this is not a unique problem. Like the problems we're talking about is not unique to Holt High School, right?
Amen.
Like
true. Very
these
true.
same issues that were elevated in this article are the issues that are happening across America right now in every type of high school, right? Suburban, urban, rural. Like, I think when it comes down to it, the things we talked about today, like are top of, it's the national conversation about social, emotional, mental health, violence, and supporting our kids instructionally. So just wanted to say that really quickly. And secondly, I think just like going back to the theme today of just student voice, right? Empowering student voice, making the content relevant to what students care about, allowing them to really be able to talk and lead in the class. I think more so ever, we talked about today is including students' voices in everything that we do, right? Everything that we do, including their voice, including their perspective. And so, just like when Katie was talking about a few different strategies, I had a ton of flashbacks to like my classroom experience also of just different ways to facilitate student voice. And I know like for me, think, pair, share was like my favorite thing. Like I wouldn't talk more than 10, even if there was a PowerPoint of information that I needed to do direct instruction on for 15 minutes, like there'd be at least one think, pair, share to like stop, break it up, let the students talk, bring it back. That's just like a very quick strategy that you could include several times throughout your lessons for students to be able to talk instructionally within the classroom. But I think like, there's tons of strategies like that. I like how you talked about the like speed dating strategy, Katie. Like we used to do that even with vocabulary words. We would do like the pinwheel and do and like have each other, quiz each other on the vocabulary words and have conversations about them. Like there's tons of strategies there. And I think like one of the most important things for me is really creating that relevance piece so that students are working on things that are relevant to society, relevant to their lives, and allowing them to take the lead in the classroom.
I love it. I love it.
Yeah.
All right, Katie, bring the literacy in.
I'll be short and sweet. I just want to reiterate, I loved what you said about like, it's not a waste of our time. It's going to make our instruction more impactful and effective. So we have to make time to teach them how to have good collaborative discussions. And it's not something we're just making up either. I just pulled up the Common Core State Standards. There's a whole section for every single grade level on speaking and listening. So like there's a 9th grade standard that is initiate and participate effectively in a range of collaborative conversations with diverse partners on topics, texts, issues, building on others' ideas and expressing their own clearly and persuasively. That's just one of the standards, and there are tons of those at every single grade level. So it's our job. It's not just something that like, oh, that would be helpful. It is actually our job to help teach them how to be good speakers and listeners. And I know it sounds so cheesy, but I really do believe like, what would our world look like if people were like listening to each other more often? It would look so differently, right? And what, as educators, you have the power to help start that now. If we can teach them in their classes to like be kind and have collaborative conversations and listen to other people's viewpoints and have empathy and listen, even if someone thinks differently than you, I mean, it would change the world, right? So it's important for us to make a priority today.
I love it. I love
Perfect.
it. Yes,
And
that's a great
even
close.
more important than those test scores right now.
It's
like
more important.
Those skills.
Look, if the pandemic didn't teach us one thing, it taught us to sit and listen.
Yeah.
Because there was no other way. Like you couldn't just go hang out and be in the presence of people. You actually had to sit and listen. So if you're either on the phone, you're on Zoom, you're on whatever, but you had to sit and listen in order to engage. So I'm right with you, Katie. I truly appreciate that, saying that. And the word listen. Is it silent in there? Is it that's silent? Look at the letters of listen. It's silent.
Ah,
wow.
Katie said, oh.
Never look at that.
So sometimes you have to be silent to listen. So, and not just listen to speak, not waiting on your turn to get in. You have to listen. You have to listen. And sometimes we equate age with whether we should listen or not, or experience of whether we should listen or not. Everyone has currency. Everyone has value. So you need to listen to them. All right. Let's go in B's office. Let's have an amazing day, everyone. As I would say, that's it. That's all, says the clock on the wall. Go be amazing on purpose today. Hey, B.
Hey, Auntie Val. Thank you so much for the intro. Welcome back, everybody, to the undisputed, coolest, bar none, just best principal's office that there is in the world. Auntie Val might dispute that, but I won't. So we got a couple of points today. Number one, give your students a voice, all right? We might as well listen to them. Why? Because students are dealing with some real life stuff. I was reading that article that ET was referring to throughout the podcast, and there's some stuff in there, right? Suicide, kids coming to school with loaded guns, bullying and fighting. So I know we're older and we went to school for a really long time, but they're dealing with some adult stuff. So sometimes, even though they are students, we need to listen and respect what they have to say as if we were dealing with adults. So what does that look like? It looks like open lines of communication. It looks like respecting them enough to allow them a voice. That is number one. Number two, find innovative ways of engagement. We heard ET talk about how he got everybody involved, the students, the parents, the fathers, all from simply feeding them at the event. So Sam mentioned social media. Val has talked before about giving parents a just because phone call to help get them engaged. And then she also brought up this idea of co-generative dialogue, asking the students what's working and actively seeking their input, because there is a difference between being open to accepting feedback from students and actively seeking that feedback. So number two is find innovative ways to enhance that engagement. And number three, give them the tools. Give them the tools that they need to solve these problems. Because here's the thing, there's multiple ways to deal with the same problem. right? If we're angry or upset, we don't have to hurt somebody to solve that. Instead of fighting, show them how to break dance, how to wrestle, how to use sports, how to use conversation, conflict resolution. What are the tools that you could give them to manage some of these challenges? Remember, they're in school to learn, so let's teach them some of these things that they'll be able to use for the rest of their lives. And you heard Katie say it, model those tools for them, and you'll be amazed at what they pick up on. So a couple of quick announcements. Again, the Principals Solution Tour. You do not want to miss this opportunity. Email us right now at info@extremeteachers.com and get your school on our schedule for our professional development tour. And as always, visit our website, www.extremeteachers.com, to learn more about becoming a certified extreme teacher and check out all of our other products and services that can help you take you and your school to the next level. And of course, don't forget to use the link below in the description to nominate a teacher in your life as an extreme teacher to be nominated on the podcast. We rely on you to submit those nominations so that we can highlight these amazing stories. So please, if you know somebody that deserves to be highlighted, drop them in that link in the description below. So this week's shout out goes to Tiffany Blassingame. This is what she said. I'm the founder of the Ferguson School, an independent Christian school in Metro Atlanta. Our mission is to grow the minds, hearts, and faith of young learners. Love that statement. I currently serve as the lead teacher of a multi-age K-2 classroom, as well as the head of school. And I've been an educator in public and private schools for 20 years. So from the Extreme Teachers family to you, awesome work, Tiffany. That really is extreme, and we appreciate you for it. Now, as another episode comes to a close, I'm reminded of the other day when I heard Auntie Val speaking to a group of teachers. And she said that truly extreme teachers often don't fit in. What does that mean? She said extreme teachers are often misunderstood, that people don't understand why you show up early or stay late, why you sacrifice so much for your job, why you care so much for the kids, why you're always going the extra mile, doing the most. She said that truly extreme teachers really don't fit in with the crowd. Now, I know that you don't need it, but I just wanted to say it. If that sounds like you, don't try to fit in when you were made to stand out. Nobody else needs to understand why you do what you do, because it's not their responsibility. It's yours. It's not their calling. It's yours. And it's not their impact. It's yours. So no matter what, keep being extreme. Do it on purpose, according to your purpose. You're watching the Extreme Teachers Video Podcast. We'll see you on the next one.